We recently got this updated dossier on Palantir, the Wormhole edition, from friend of the channel and Palantir investor, who you can find on Twitter at either_square. So this presentation, which I will link in the description, dissects all of the new developments when it comes to Palantir's Foundry and client list. By pulling through these links, as we've seen him do before, he's been able to recognize code names and then link those to actual clients of Palantir. So what this means is we're able to get a better understanding of how Palantir's commercial growth is going, even before we have Palantir's conference call for the second quarter. So here are some of the solved code names that he has listed here, with help from others in the Palantir community as well. And this allows for the discovery of new companies using Palantir. Now, in this video, I want to dedicate it to just one company. Now, you may have already heard Coca-Cola is using Palantir, but you're missing the big point here, which I will get into shortly. So here's an updated list of other companies: Pfizer, GM, Mercedes. Like, these are huge. This is huge for Palantir. This is awesome to see. This entire list, once again, you can dig through it yourself in the description. And even if these companies aren't necessarily signed on with Palantir in full contracts and are likely in the acquire phase and more so testing out the product, it's really still awesome to see that there are these relationships being built no matter what stage they are in, because it truly does show that Palantir is doing some really important work here, and it's just the beginning. And Either Square is also working on a database. And what does that mean? Well, that means basically a Google Sheets document that categorizes all of this information so that it's not just a Word document or a presentation that you have to click through. You can actually see updates in real time. So the bottom line is 60 plus new companies appeared on Foundry from Q1 to Q2. I can't wait to see what Palantir management brings us in the second quarter earnings call on August 8th. So that'll do it for this dossier. Thank you very much to Either Square, but I want to continue this by showing a clip of a video I did over a year ago talking about Coca-Cola's decision to not use Palantir's Foundry back in 2016. I'll be back with some analysis. In 2016, Palantir lost a few big name commercial clients like Coca-Cola, American Express, and NASDAQ. So here's the little blurb from Fast Company. More than 1,000 of the company's internal emails and documents were obtained by BuzzFeed, which reported today that high-profile customers had stopped working with Palantir due to exorbitant fees, sometimes more than $1 million a month, and disappointed with its services. And that's not all. This is 2016. Today, I'm not worried about Palantir retaining talent and employees because I think they have done a good enough job with the stock-based compensation. They're a big enough name now. We've seen them rising in the ranks when it comes to interest in Palantir. So I'm not worried about the employee part, but they cite the exorbitant fees, which is something that I've heard about Palantir. It is very expensive. It is not cheap, but that's what you're paying for, an all-in-one solution that just works. So naturally, there are some questions for why these companies actually stopped using Palantir. Why did they leave? Will they ever come back? What are they doing now? What are they choosing to use instead? And if you've been paying attention at all to my prior videos, data collection and analysis is not going away. It's actually becoming more important. So how are these big named companies solving the problem of big data? And are they doing it in-house by themselves? Or did they have to hire someone else to do it instead of Palantir? Or are they just completely choosing to ignore the problem entirely and risk their business as a result? Today I'm going to cite another quick clip from Karp in the same vein here, explaining why Palantir actually is choosing to be selective with commercial clients. He is not selective when it comes to working with the US government. You'll hear him explain that. But when it comes to commercial clients, they're as selective as they can be, which I think really demonstrates the strength of Palantir's business. If they were on the brink and needed every contract they could get, if they were in a really bad business position, they would be overextending themselves for all of these contracts. Even in 2016, you'll see the confidence in Karp when he speaks, even more so sometimes than when we see him speak today. But you do hear it in his voice, you see it in his body language. He's very confident with where Palantir is, and his decision sometimes to deny commercial clients, say we're going to choose other contracts that we think are better partnerships, because Palantir does like to be strategic in that regard.
You know, there have been reports that you've lost a lot of commercial customers, Coke, Amex, among them. They basically say, we don't know why we're using this. I mean, a lot of the data.
Not what happened.
What happened?
You're still single almost, and we date heavily before we marry. I spent most of my life in Europe. Quite frankly, I date very heavily before I never married. We always are interested, on the government side, we go all in. If you're Special Forces Portugal, we will go in, we will show up, we will show up. If you say you're not going to pay us, we'll still show up. I can't obviously go into specific customers, but I and the company are very focused only on commercial clients where the aggregate value of the customer could be $100 million or more. If there's a
Coke could be worth that. Why did they decide?
Let me just finish.
Yeah.
But you need to go back to dating. Just because they're great doesn't mean we have a great fit. I'm not disparaging any of these people as companies. I'm just saying there are a lot of companies. We can't work with every company. We have, from 2014 to now, we have 10x growth on $100 million contracts. 10x growth. How did we get that? Partly by saying yes, and a lot by saying no. By saying, you are a great company. You are doing great things. We are a unique company filled with odd people like me. We may not fit. That's fine. It's a big ocean if it's in the commercial context.
Yeah.
If it's in the government context, we will show up and show up. We will try to force marriage. If you don't want to marry us, we'll show up the next day. But we don't do that in the commercial context. And you know what? Since we've been more disciplined about this, our business has done much, much better. It also does better because neither side wants to be in a relationship you don't want to be in. Great companies, 10x growth on our end. I'm sure that they will do 10x growth, as great as they are.
So there you have it. Coca-Cola was against using Palantir's Foundry. Maybe it was Palantir that didn't like how the relationship was going, but nonetheless, the Coca-Cola, American Express, some of these other big companies actually left and stopped using Palantir. But what's really important in this story is that they came back, right? Because Coca-Cola had decided ultimately that they didn't need Palantir. They didn't need Foundry to do what they were doing, and they could live without it, essentially. But for them to come back and sign on with Palantir once again, it truly speaks to the competitive advantage that Palantir's product provides. And no doubt the hard work that Palantir's sales team is doing, and that work will, in my opinion, be recognized over the coming quarters and years. So I hadn't heard anyone bring up the history of Coca-Cola and Palantir, so I wanted to bring that to you in this video, to bring together the past and what we now know is going to be the future, hopefully with a formal announcement on this going forward once Palantir is able to reach an agreement with Coca-Cola. This does not just signify a new contract for Palantir. It signifies something much, much more. It signifies the strength of the product, how much it matters to an institution, organization, company, and also we have all of these names to be looking forward to hear Palantir talk about in the second quarter. It really does seem like things are picking up on the commercial side. So that's where I'll leave it for now. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time.